We have two types of projects, right? One is, two types of major methodologies that we are, any organization that follows. One is the Waterfall methodology, and another one is Agile. So Scrum is one of the framework. Safe. There are multiple types of, framework that we use, and all those frameworks will fall under Agile. And Waterfall is the traditional project management where you have multiple phases such as initiate, planning, execution, monitoring, and control and closure. And Waterfall project management is the traditional way, and since several years that has been in practice. Most of the activities are performed in a sequential way. For software development, Waterfall is not really aligned activity or a preferred methodology that we can actually recommend for any software development, because the cost of change in software development, if you're going to use Waterfall methodology, is going to be huge. And that is why it is also recommended that always follow Agile if there is any software development involved. But many organizations are recently coming up stating that we should always be Agile. But how practical it is to obtain, how practical it is to follow or practice Agile every day is altogether a different set of questions, because some of the construction, right? So for construction industries, they all follow Agile. But if you are going to talk about infrastructure project where you're going to deploy some sort of servers and then install an application, it is pretty hard to follow Agile methodology, because those things needs to happen in a sequential way. But software development is not like that. It is altogether having a different set of approach. Yeah. And in Waterfall project management methodology, there will be a project manager who will control everything. Yeah. When I say a project manager, this project manager's responsibility is to put together a business case, why a project is required, and what is going to be the scope of this project, and what is going to be the budget of this project. And there's going to be quite a lot of documentation involved in Waterfall methodology. And even today, many projects are still following Waterfall methodology because that is the right approach. But there's quite a lot of documentation, as I said, for Waterfall, which involves monitoring the budget on a weekly basis, sending out the status report, documenting each and everything that we're talking about, sending out the meeting minutes, and storing it. When I say documentation, there is also something called RAID document that involves capturing risk assumptions, issues, and dependencies, and continuously monitoring it and providing mitigations. And these are some of the. It is too bureaucratic. That's what I would say for Waterfall methodology. But at the same time, the success rate is quite high. But unfortunately, if there is going to be a change in the Waterfall methodology, it is going to be pretty hard to accommodate it. And it's not, when I say pretty hard, what I meant is that the cost of accommodating is going to be huge. But in Waterfall, these are some of the advantages and some of the disadvantages as well. At the same time, in Agile, it's more of an iterative approach for managing software development, as I said, that focuses on continuous releases as sprints. And by releasing it on a frequent basis, we will get the real-time feedback from the customers or the client or the business stakeholders at the every iteration. That will help us to make or accommodate changes, and it will also help us to understand whether we are on the right track, instead of discovering something at the end of the project, right? If you're going to adapt Waterfall methodology for developing a software, it means the delivery of the product is going to happen only at the end of the project, right? And at the end of the project, if you're going to deliver something, the project stakeholders or the client is going to come back and say, no, this is not what I asked. I want this change. This is completely not aligned with what my requirement is. If that's the kind of feedback we're going to get at Waterfall, we have to go back and start from the scratch. And the cost of resources, cost of time, it's going to be huge, right? And that's why the changes are not welcoming in Waterfall. But in Agile, every iteration we are releasing something so that we can get real-time feedback and we can actually understand and hope that this is going to be the right approach and this is exactly what the customer wanted, right? And also, unlike Agile, unlike Waterfall, what I said, it welcomes changes on the product and the product owner and the Scrum team will determine how to best accommodate it, right? On which sprint we can do it, and how well this can actually still, go with the product goal. Yeah. So this is a major difference between Waterfall and Agile, and I'm sure that you will not be interested in Waterfall because based on the nature of the projects that you guys are working, you will mostly work on the Agile based projects. Yeah, and I'm going to quickly go to the Scrum topic, which is one of the framework. I mean, as I said, there are quite a lot of frameworks that is available under Agile, but the most common is Scrum. I'm sure that you all are working on a daily basis. Most of you guys are participating in the daily Scrum meetings. So this is just a quick definition. What Scrum is. It's basically a lightweight framework, and one of the most lightweight framework compared to SAFe. And there is also another framework, SAFe POP. So compared to all this, Scrum is the most lightweight framework that helps all the team members and organizations to generate value through the solutions for complex problems. Right? If you begin a project for software development, at the beginning there's quite a lot of unknowns. So with this Scrum, it will go ahead with the adaptive solutions, and it will help us to solve the complex problems. Right? For Scrum, it requires a Scrum Master to foster an environment where a product owner, who is going to be the major responsibility owner or major decision maker for any Scrum, team, and who kind of orders a work for a complex problem into a product backlog. And a Scrum team turns a selection of work into an increment value during a sprint. When I say Scrum team, it means that it's not just testers, it's not just developers, it is not a Scrum Master, it is a team, right? So in a general term, if you're going to read in Scrum Master, you might hear a term called developer. So it doesn't mean that only developers are going to be part of the Scrum team. It is also going to be considered as SQL team. It could be a SQL team. It could be some sort of QA testing, automation testing, manual testing. So all these will fall under the Scrum developers. So they just wanted to use a single term as developers. It means that you are also part of the developer team. Doesn't mean that you will go into the development team and you'll start developing things for the customer, but you are part of the development team, and that's the terminology that they use in Scrum. Yeah. And these are some of the repeated tasks, right? What I have mentioned in point 4 points that you are going to do it on a daily basis. Scrum team and stakeholders inspect the results at the end of each sprint and adjust the next sprint accordingly. As I said, we are welcoming changes in Scrum, and we will try to accommodate all the changes and how best that we can accommodate it, and which sprint and how we need to adjust the sprint. So that's what we are doing as a Scrum Master, right? And Scrum employs an iterative, incremental approach to optimize predictability and to control risk. So unlike the Waterfall methodology, it will be an iterative approach where you are going to repeat the same thing at the end of each sprint, and it will help us to kind of make sure that we are on the right track, and also to optimize predictability and to control risk. When I say risk, it is going to be a huge risk. If you're not going to give a demo to the customer at the end of each sprint, if you're planning to give a demo at the end of the product, the change of cost is really huge. So that's why we always prefer to kind of provide the demo to the customer or the relevant product owners and whoever the responsible person is to take a decision to kind of make sure that we are on the right track, and if there is any changes, we are properly taking those information and passing it on to the right teams. Okay, moving on to the next slide. These are some of the 5 most important. I mean, it's not something that you as a developer team you will not be focusing, but when there is a Scrum Master, the Scrum Master should be familiar with these values, right? I'm just having this here so that you are aware that these are the values a Scrum Master should be having on, right? Commitment, focus, openness, respect, and courage. So these 5 values should be given high importance by any Scrum Master, right? If you think a Scrum Master is not following these kind of values, you should always escalate it, right? I mean, if you're going to be the Scrum Master could be internal, the Scrum Master could be from the most likely it will be from the customer side, whatever based on the projects that we are handling right now. It is from the business or the client side, but it is very important that the Scrum Master should display these type of values, And if you think that these are not really working out, it's time for you to kind of bring up to one of us in the Testvox, and I think Fatima or your team leader, you should say that the Scrum Master is not really living the values, and we think that he's not good enough to handle the Scrum team. And we will assess what kind of betterment. I mean, it's not something that we will penalize the customer, stating that your Scrum Master is not doing a great job, but it's important to highlight that if a Scrum Master is not doing the job properly, it is going to impact the entire team, right? So just highlight this to your team leaders or your project manager or Scrum Master in in Testvox, so that it helps that it helps to focus that we are on the right track. Yeah. And as I said, the Scrum team, it is a group of split of what I described as Scrum team. The fundamental unit of Scrum is a small team of people that involves the Scrum Master, and it will have one product owner and developers, right? So when I say the developers, it is going to be the testers, SQL team. All the technical folks will fall under developers. Okay, any number of technical people who's going to be part of your project will be termed as developers. It doesn't mean that they will be doing the development. It could be developers, it could be testers, it could be SQL DB, it could be some sort of server owners who are technically inclined. Yeah. And it is a unit of professionals focused on one objective at a time, the product goal. So when a project is approved, it will have a product goal, right? And that product goal needs to be met. So any activities that you perform will be aligned in focusing on achieving the product goal, right? So if it is going to be deviated towards the product goal, it means that it is we're not going to be achieving the product goal. So it is not, as a tester, it might not be your responsibility, but predominantly it will be between the product owner and the Scrum Master, yeah, who will be taking care of all this. Whether the 8 sprint activities are aligned properly, whether the product backlog is updated based on the feedback from the previous iteration, and all these things should be captured based on each iteration results, and it is the responsibility of the product owner and the Scrum Master to ensure that we are working closely to achieve the product goal. So Scrum teams are also cross-functional, meaning the members will have the skills necessary to create value at each sprint. Most of the times it should be self-managing, right? But here, we are still in the early stage where we are still trying to, reach out to people, and we're still trying to, get things in place. But a good Scrum team is also self-managing, right? We don't need really some managers to manage people, right? So if which means that people will have their accountability, and they don't need a manager, they don't need a leader to go back and say, hey, do this, do that every day, right? So that is how a good Scrum team will work. So I mean, it's not something that somebody is doing something wrong, but that is how we should all mature. As I said, we are in a very early stage of Scrum, but as a good Scrum team, when we consider as a mature Scrum team, it means that we are all self-managing, that we can take a quality decision on what is right and what is wrong, and supporting each other, not just kind of coming to the office or logging in every day morning and completing our work and closing out without knowing what kind of value that I've added, right? So it is important to know that whatever that you are doing is adding some sort of value, and how it is contributing to the overall product. So as a testers, if you think that my job is only to do the testing and I don't need to know anything else, that's not right. As a tester, you have all the right to understand what this product is about, right? You need to know how this is going to be utilized by the customers, and who's going to be a targeted audience, and what kind of service this product is going to give. And by knowing that, you're not only going to kind of do the testing better, but you will also be able to provide some sort of feedback to the customers, right? And that feedback is greatly valued, and not all the time, I would say, but most of the time it will be valued by the customers, and that will open up more business for us, right? And that is how we kind of display our value, and we will display them that we are self-managing. I mean, we don't need people to manage us. We are self-managing. I can manage myself. I can manage my work completely. I know what I am doing, and I am accountable for what I'm doing. If something is going wrong, and if somebody is going to reach out to you stating that, hey, this is not working, you can't simply, hey, this is not my job. But as a self-managing team, what I will do is, I'll try to find the respective person who's supposed to help or who's supposed to fix that issue, and I will direct the person who reached out to me from the business. Instead of just saying it is not my responsibility, you need to contact somebody else, forget about me. Instead of saying that, you have to take the accountability because it is your product, you are testing that, right? So that is how you kind of show that maturity, and that is how we kind of reach that stage that we are self-managing, we are a mature Scrum team who takes care of the product, who takes care of our customers, right? And that's pretty much what I wanted to talk about, and which is one of the most important Scrum value. And it's going to be a detailed discussion required what a Scrum team is and its responsibilities, but I just mentioned everything just a few minutes ago. So I think I'm going to skip this and go ahead. And what a role of a Scrum Master. It's going to be a detailed topic. You can go through the slides, but I'm just going to highlight what a Scrum Master is supposed to take up the responsibility, what kind of responsibility, or what a good Scrum Master does in a project, right? Scrum Master coach the team members in self-management and cross-functionality. As I just mentioned, it is going to be a self-management. And how do you achieve self-management? You can't just join and on a project and you can't self-manage yourself from day one. So that is where a Scrum Master will actually come into the picture and help you understand how do you self-manage yourself, and how do you get trained cross-functionally. If you're going to be part of manual testing, how do you elevate yourself in terms of the skill set, and how do you learn new stuff, be it automation testing or performance testing or new technologies or new tools. Being cross-functional is always helpful, so that if one activity is out of the scope, or if there is another activity, how do you pitch in and support, right? And the Scrum Master is also responsible to teach their team members to self-manage. And the Scrum Master also supposed to help the Scrum team focus on creating high-value increments that meets the definition of done. So at the end of each sprint, there is a when you're creating something in a product, this is more for a development team. The definition of done, they call it as DOD. So which means that they'll describe a value, or they describe a quality that states, okay, if this particular activity is going to meet number of checks, it means that it is definition that it means that it's done. So any activity or any task that is within the sprint, it should meet a definition of done. That is when it will be considered as complete, and not just by ticking it off, right? So there is another responsibility of Scrum Master, and also the Scrum Master. It's a very important value that a Scrum Master should carry, causing the removal of impediments to the Scrum team's progress. For example, if there is a blocker, impediment is basically a blocker for any team members within the Scrum team. It is the Scrum Master's responsibility to kind of influence there and understand what really is the problem and provide the appropriate solutions. And it is something that a Scrum Master should do on a daily basis. To be, it's not important that a Scrum Master should participate in all the, daily Scrum meetings, but it will be great if the Scrum Master can join and understand, what kind of blockers or what kind of impediments any team members or any developers has, and based on that, he or she should support the Scrum team, right? So that's another major responsibility of a Scrum Master. Yeah. This is just for your information, because we are all not product owners. So what a product owner is accountable for, and how effectively the product backlog is managed by the product owner. Yeah. So whenever you get some time, you can go through this slide to understand if you are going to deal with some of the product owners in your project, and if you think that the product owner is not really supporting, and if you're not sure there is an activity, and if you're not sure who's supposed to do this activity, whether a product owner should do it, or a Scrum Master should do it, or a developer or a tester, then you can come back to the slide and understand, okay, this is not something a product owner should do, this is a Scrum Master, or this is an activity that should be done by the product owner, right? So you can always come back to the slide. Because this is not directly relevant to you, I'm going to skip this slide as well. And a sprint, the most favorite thing for all of you, they are the fixed length events of 1 month or less. Ideally, it will be 2 weeks or not more than 1 month. And that is how you can control the actual work, instead of having a sprint of 6 months and realizing that something is wrong. If you're going to identify something is wrong at the end of 2 weeks or 1 month, it is easy to fix, right? That is the reason of having the sprint length as short as possible. But less than 2 weeks is not reasonable. But if you're going to have it as 2 weeks or 1 month, and if something is wrong during the sprint, during the sprint review, we can always go back and fix it. If you're going to have a sprint at the end of every 6 months, there's no point of having a sprint. It's more of a waterfall based project. Yeah, and since most of you are working on the Scrum projects, can any of you comment? How often do you have a sprint review, or are you guys participating as testers?
Hi Jitesh, actually the project which I work is of Agile methodology, and they are following the sprint model, and it is of a 2-week sprint actually. Okay. So I think that is the shortest duration. If you're going to have less than 2 weeks, it doesn't make sense. You might not have made a huge progress to have a review. But if you're going to have 1 month, that's also fine. That's based on the complexity, and the product owner and the Scrum team decides, how frequently you should have a sprint meeting or sprint review, right? But yeah, this is pretty much what sprint is about. But go ahead, Namita. You wanted to say something?
Hi Jitesh. Actually, I am working for a project, but actually 1 week sprint means every Friday we will be like that. Meeting will be a sprint planning is that like that. I don't know why they are making like that. 1 week.
It is fine. Yeah. It is fine, but as I said, ideally based on the books, Scrum is not recommending anything. Okay, like Waterfall. If you're going to follow the Waterfall methodology, they are having a certain set of guidelines stating that this is the duration of this is the ideal duration, and you should follow it. But Scrum is not something that is asking anybody to follow this. Yeah, but they're just recommending that the ideal duration is between 2 weeks to 1 month, or 2 weeks to 4 weeks. But based on the project complexity, if there is a project that follows 1 week, maybe it is too many activities are progressing in 1 week, and that's why they wanted to have it so frequently instead of having it as 2 weeks or 4 weeks, right? So that is why, but it's not wrong, because Scrum is not giving a rule written on stone stating that you should have a sprint only in 2 weeks or 4 weeks, not on 1 week. It is a recommendation whether you can have it in 2 weeks or 4 weeks or 1 week, based on the product owner or the Scrum team can decide what makes sense for them based on the product complexity. Yeah.
Okay. Also, I think the tool means follow that team members need for sprint and all. Here for this project, we are using this Jira tool related things that is according to our Scrum Master's choice, or how it will be. Any tool required, right, for this management sprint related things and all, right?
It depends. For example, some organization might use a better software if they have licensing, right? Because most of the softwares are paid. But if you're going to use Jira, I think it is a paid tool, if I'm not wrong. If the organization can afford to use the tool, they can use Jira. And if the tool is not affordable for that particular organization, they might use a different tool. But it's not something a product team can decide. If the tool has multiple organization, if the organization has multiple tools purchased for their organization, then it is a possibility that the Scrum team can decide which tool can use. But if the tool has got licensing only for Jira, then you don't have a choice, right? You only can go ahead and use Jira.
So with a simple Excel sheet itself, we can able to manage. I mean, see if it is like that. That is not a mandatory thing, right? Because
it is definitely not a mandatory thing. It is definitely not a mandatory thing, and the Scrum team can decide whichever is simple. I mean, as per the Scrum, the Scrum framework is not recommending or not forcing people to use that this tool should be used or this duration should be used. These are some of the best recommendation that has been provided by the Scrum Foundation. Yeah. So if you are going to follow it, you will be able to manage this efficiently.
Okay. Thank you.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah. No problem. I think this is another common thing that you guys are, participating day in, day out. The daily scrum, right? So it is to inspect the progress towards sprint goal and adapt the sprint backlog as necessary, adjusting the upcoming planned work. And ideal timeline for a daily scrum is only 15 minutes for the developers. When I say developers, it's not developers, it is including the testers, right? All technical team. And this is to make sure that we are on track. We are, all understanding the product goal and the sprint goal, and we are, on the same page. It's not something that mandatory, but it is recommended to have it as a 15-minute, so that we are all aligned, right?